everybody, my name is Mr. Francy and welcome back to Mr. Francy Reads. Okay, so today I thought I'd do something just a little bit different. I was struggling to come up with some ideas for videos for this week, and then I just started thinking about how I've been here on BookTube for 3 years and I haven't really done anything to celebrate it. So I decided that today I'm going to talk about some standout books for me that I've read over the course of the 3 years that I've been here on BookTube. And I'm going to start on the negative side because it's always good to end with a positive and talk about, well, all of the 1-star books that I've read and rated on Goodreads since I started my channel, and also some 2-star books as well. So this is going to be me taking a trip down memory lane and, telling you all the reasons why I didn't enjoy these books, and it may get passionate here or there. Time will tell. But yeah, quick disclaimer that shouldn't need to be said, but I'll say it anyway, just, to save face. My opinions are my own, and if anything that I tell you is something that entices you to want to pick up the book, please do. Don't think you're going to offend me in any way if you pick up the book or you've read the book and either way you like the book, because as readers, we love different things, and I love hearing people give differing opinions on why they liked something or didn't, even and especially if they differ to my own. So yeah. This is just my opinion. Don't let it impact you, but just enjoy the rant. All right, let's jump in. All right, so first cap off the rank, we're going from worst to, whatever. So I'm starting off with the only book that is in my Goodreads list that hasn't been rated because it doesn't even deserve 1 star. I'm not going to spend long at all talking about this book. At the time, I did 3 separate videos discussing this book and all the reasons why I didn't like it, and I got very heated. But in this video today, I'm just going to quickly gloss over it. So let's put it on the screen. The only book I haven't even given 1 star to, because it was not even good enough to deserve 1 star, was this book, which is We Are Totally Normal by Naomi Kanakia. Okay, so this book personally offended me. We follow a boy by the name of Nandan who pretends to be gay because he views being gay as the in thing at his school, and he figures if he pretends to be gay, he will find a way to physically as well as mentally and socially be closer to the girls to get them to trust him, so they will lower their guard and they will do things with him. He also enters into a relationship with a guy to try and continue to perpetuate this lie that he has formed that he is gay when he's not, with this guy that he continues to claim is repulsive all the way throughout the book. So you may ask me why I kept reading this book, considering how horrible it was and how much it offended me, and my honest answer is I thought it would end well. I thought there would be some sort of a lesson that was learned for Nandan. Spoiler here, no lesson was learned. Nandan walked away with his head held high and felt like he did nothing wrong. So it didn't even deserve 1 star from me. It was just horrible, and if you want to pick up this book, or if you have and you like it when you do or when you did, that is absolutely fine. But for me, I just found it incredibly personally offensive, and it didn't even get a rating, let alone 1 star. All right, now let's move on. The first book, and this is just the way Goodreads has ordered it, and if you want to do this yourself, all you need to do is go into your My Books section of Goodreads and tap on the average rating section, and it will either show you your 5-star books downwards, or if not, it'll show you your 1-star books upwards. If it's gone the wrong way around for you, just tap that average rating, okay, it's written rating twice, section again, and it will reverse it for you. So in Goodreads order of my 1-star ratings, the first official 1-star is this book, My Hairiest Adventure by R.L. Stine. This is a middle grade horror, and it is book number 26 in the Goosebumps series. Okay, I read this book in March of 2020 because I wanted to expand my horizons and read all different genres. I had been predominantly fantasy leaning to this point in my reading life. I started my channel in late January of 2020. But even prior to my channel, I had been predominantly fantasy leaning, and I wanted to spread my wings and really just see how many different genres I could read and which ones I would like and which ones I didn't. So I kind of did a sampler month in the month of March to see all different genres, what I might like, what I might not. So I decided to pick up a middle grade as well as an adult horror. If you're interested, the adult horror I picked up was The Bizarre Book of Bad Dreams, which is a compilation of short stories written by Stephen King. I think I gave that 3 stars ultimately, but focusing on this one, this was the first Goosebumps book, not Goodreads, Goosebumps book that I picked up since starting my channel. And I thought it would be a great place to start considering I hadn't read horror in a long time, and at that point in my life, I wasn't someone who enjoyed horror movies at all. I was definitely someone who would jump at every horror scene, so it just wasn't my cup of tea. I didn't like it, but I thought, hey, I'm going to expand my horizons. So when it comes to horror, why not pick a middle grade horror? The problem was starting with this one. At the time, I worked at a thrift store and we had this one. So it was convenient. It was very cheap. So I thought I'll just grab this and read this one. And unfortunately, this one is said to be the single most boring book in the entire series. I can see why. It was incredibly boring. Following a boy by the name of Larry, who is in a middle grade band, in his middle grade school, he's in a band, and he and his bandmates are doing a rehearsal at his house. They find a bottle of Insta-Tan tanning lotion. They decide to rub it on themselves to give themselves some sort of a tanny glow. And the next thing that Larry knows, he ends up growing hair all over his body. It freaks him out. He doesn't know why. I was bored. And then we got the reveal at the end, and the reveal was amazing, but then the aftermath only lasted 1 page, and that really annoyed me that we finally get to something good right at the end, and then we only get 1 page, and then it's done. I was so incredibly annoyed that I gave the book 1 star just based on emotion. Like, R.L. Stine, you can't do this to me. Cut out the first third and add a third on for the aftermath, because the reveal was so good. I wanted more in that aftermath. Do you all love aftermaths in books? So, like epilogues and stuff like that? Let me know in the comments below. All right, the next one. I'm going to give you a heads up. If you are a fan of either the movies or the book series, The Lord of the Rings, you might want to skip ahead to the next book I'm talking about, because the current book I'm going to speak to you about is this book, The Fellowship of the Ring by R.L. Stine. This is the first book in the Lord of the Rings series. So, in April of 2020, I read what I called the Lord of the Rings Quartet, The Hobbit, and the first 3 books of The Lord of the Rings to celebrate a friend of mine's birthday. Her favourite movies are the Lord of the Rings movies, so I decided to honour that by reading the 4 books, including The Hobbit. And I had issues with all of them. I'm not a fan of Lord of the Rings. Leave the comments. It's fine. Comment away and tell me how horrible a person I am because I don't like Lord of the Rings. You know, I stand alone on this with the majority of readers out there, and that's absolutely fine. Everyone's going to love what they love. I have many issues with the Lord of the Rings series, and I've done many a video about it. Feel free to go back specifically and find the 10 reasons why I do not like Lord of the Rings video. Seriously, it wasn't just like a passing moment or a word here or there or a specific character. In fact, for me, there were only 2 redeeming qualities 3 actually, redeeming qualities within the entire quartet that I read. But anyway, this book was just horrible for me, and the reason for that, to keep it brief, is because it follows my least favorite trope of all time, which is the traveling/questing trope, where you don't know where you're going and you don't know how you're going to get there. It's funny, when I think back to those days when I was reading the series in April of 2020, not only was I talking about it in nearly every video I did back then, trust me, go back to April and May of 2020 and look, the videos, the receipts are there. Not only was I talking about them in videos, but anyone who would listen around me, I was telling them about it too. Everyone who knows me knows I do not like the Lord of the Rings trilogy, let alone the quartet, and I do not like J.R.R. Tolkien. It just didn't work for me, but the traveling/questing trope was a massive part of the reason why I didn't like it. So my next 1 star is this book, The Magicians by Lev Grossman. This is an adult fantasy. I gave it a 1 star. And okay, backstory. I watched the Magicians TV series adaptation that came from this book series that Lev Grossman wrote. So the book series came first, the TV series came second. I did not know the book series was a book series. When I went into the TV series, I was really excited about it, and I completed the entire TV series before even knowing it was a book series, and then picked up book 1, The Magicians. And I loved the TV series. Like, I'm trying to explain or impart upon you how much I loved that series. It gave me everything and more that I wanted. I love my fantasy or just magically inclined series, and the Magicians TV series, if you love fantasy, please watch it. It is amazing. So when I found out that it originated in this book series, literally called The Magicians, with book 1 being called The Magicians as well, I decided to pick it up because of how much I love the series. The TV series, the book let me down so much, and usually with what I find with film or TV adaptations to books is that the book did it better. In this case, no. I feel like the TV series took so many creative liberties, but every creative liberty they took from at least book 1, they took and made the series a whole lot better than the book was. The book just, it incredibly let me down, and considering how much I love the TV series, that's saying a lot that it really let me down. But gave it 1 star. We'll move on. The final 1-star book I'm going to discuss with you which is really interesting. I've only read 4 1-star books in 3 years. Like, let's have a round of applause for that. That is fantastic. 4 1-stars only in 3 years. Incredible. Is this book, The Stranger Diaries by Ellie Griffiths. Okay, so how much time do you have for me to tell you how much I did not like this book? Little bit of a backstory for you. So I read this book in August of 2020, and at that time, we were in lockdown with COVID. Yeah, remember those days? They were a whole lot of fun. But anyway, I had managed to make a deal with a wonderful bookstore in my area that would deliver books to me. And at the time, I would basically purchase my entire monthly TBR from them. And because of that, sometimes they would throw in ARC copies of books for free for me. And I really appreciated that. This one seemed to appeal to me, so I decided to pick it up. Man, am I glad I did not pay for this book, because it was just incredibly disappointing. Okay, so how to explain this? It's like a dark, gothic mystery, but just, in my opinion, done extremely poorly. It is a multi-perspective book, so we follow the perspective of 3 characters or more, in this case more, but my issue is that we would follow the perspective of 1 character for 7 chapters, and it took me a long time to get on board with that first character. By the time I finally got on board with that character, we switched perspectives and followed the perspective of another character, which really felt like the rug was being ripped out from under me, because I'm finally on board with you. Now I got to learn all about you and your perspective. So I'm in the perspective of the second one, and the same thing happened. When I finally got on board with the second perspective character, we then switched perspectives again to a whole new character again, and it just, oh my gosh, it felt like an incredibly bumpy ride the whole way through. But also, there wasn't really a lot that was keeping me interested in the story. In fact, I don't even know why I kept reading. I guess I thought that despite the fact that it was really letting me down, that we were going to get an amazing reveal. As I say, I think it was a mystery, because I know there was a reveal at the end. And the reason I know there was a reveal at the end was because, despite the fact that I must have thought it was going to be an amazing reveal that would make the slog that came before it totally worth it, no. It was like, no, it was almost like Ellie Griffith just thought, okay, let's think about all the possible reveals we can have here. Here's possibility number 1. Here's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1 would be too obvious. 2 would cause some outcry. 3 just wouldn't be enjoyable. So let's take the worst reveal possible and go with number 10. It made no sense. It was an incredible letdown. The whole book just incredibly disappointed me. And as I said earlier, I am so glad that I did not purchase this book, that I received the ARC for free, because it was worth the exact amount of money that I paid for it. Absolutely nothing. All right, let's now take a look at the 2-star books or some of the 2-star books that I've read over the course of the 3 years I've been on BookTube. Okay, so in the spirit of true transparency, I ran out of time last night when I was filming the first half of this video. Yeah, you don't need to know that, but we're transparent here, so we just say it and then we move on. So I had gotten through all of my 1-star, all of my 1-star books. So yeah, amazingly, I only read 4 1-star books in the course of 3 years. That's fantastic to my mind. So there are many 2 stars. Too many to get through in this video, but I'm just going to go in order. And in order that Goodreads have given me, if you like this video, let me know and I'll keep going. I'll do another video where I continue on with my 2 stars. But anyway, let's make a beginning while we still can. All right. So the first 2 stars on this list is The Sea of Monsters, which is book 2 in the Percy Jackson series by Rick Riordan. So after reading the Heroes of Olympus, The Lost Hero, which is the spin-off of the Percy Jackson series, and loving it so much, and then finding out it was a spin-off to an original series, I decided to pick up book 1 in the Percy Jackson series, Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. I had given the Heroes of Olympus, The Lost Hero 5 stars. I had given Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief 3 stars, and I think that's because Heroes of Olympus, The Lost Hero had really set me up for something amazing, and it was the second series that Rick Riordan wrote, where The Lightning Thief and Percy Jackson was the first one, and it just paled to me in comparison. But, so I decided, the Percy Jackson series was not for me. Then, during COVID, during the lockdown, my library had this offer: send us the genres you love and we'll send you a book a week to borrow. Like, we'll just send it out to you. And I thought, this offer is too good to refuse. So I sent out some genres that I liked, and the next thing I knew, a box, and I mean a box, arrived at my door with I think it was 15 or 20 books in there from the library, and one of them was Percy Jackson and The Sea of Monsters, and I took that as a sign. Clearly, I'm meant to be picking up this book. Okay, I'll give the series another chance. If I like this book, I'll keep going with the series. Suffice it to say, I did not keep going with the rest of the series. I did not enjoy book 2 at all. I wish I had just left it with book 1, because book 1 did get that 3 stars. It was okay. But for me, in book 2, there's a new character that comes in, and I loved that character. I thought that character was amazing and had a really big heart, but I did not like anything else about the book. So it literally only got 2 stars based on that character, and as I said, I ended up going on to DNF the rest of the Percy Jackson series. Just as a bit of background to the Heroes of Olympus series, I read book 2 quite a while after I'd read book 1, and we follow completely different characters, which annoyed me. Then I picked up book 3, where we finally follow the characters I fell in love with in book 1, but I was so over the series anyway that it flavored my thoughts and feelings. It affected my experience of book 3, and yeah, ultimately ended up DNFing that series as well. But there you go. Alright, Pet Sematary up next by Stephen King. This is an adult horror. I gave this book 2 stars because I read it in March alongside the Goosebumps book, which is interesting because I thought I read A Bizarre Book of Bad Dreams, but anyway, apparently I read this one too. And yeah, I was told this is horror to the umpteenth degree. If you're looking for a horror, this is the one that will scare the pants off you. No, it did not. Okay, look. I still have my copy of Pet Sematary because I found the US edition that I love so much. It has a picture of a cat on the cover with a bloody scratch on its head, if you're looking for the specific edition that I own. I love the edition. It truly reflects the horror that comes up towards the end of the book. But what I did not know was that Pet Sematary is one of King's least horror-y type horror books, and it's more a great study in grief and loss. It just wasn't for me. I was not prepared for that. I wanted it to do all the things that I want horrors to do. Creep me out, freak me out, force me to want to leave the light on, convince me I'm gonna have a nightmare, stuff like that. It just didn't do that for me. I just found it really boring. Gave it 2 stars. The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak. How much time do you have? Oh my gosh. So, this is a book that is narrated by Death. Yes, Death takes a hand at narrating a book. How amazing is that, right? That's why I picked it up, because I was like, oh my gosh, Death is narrating this. This is going to be so cool. Yeah, it was for 2 chapters, and then it was boring. So, I highly recommend, if you like that setup for this particular book, read the first 2 chapters and then you don't have to read the rest. The first 2 chapters absolutely are narrated by Death, and Death talks about different things to do with death in general, as well as its job of being Death and what that entails and stuff like that, which was really, really, really interesting. Then come in chapter 3, and it completely switches from Death talking about Death's role and death in general, like how death occurs, why it occurs, and how that relates to Death's job, into this historical fiction about a girl who is taken to live with some family during the whole German-Jewish war time, and honestly, I just found it really boring. I'm not someone who likes historical fiction. There's only one historical fiction that I've read that I absolutely loved, and that was Carlos Ruiz Zafón's book, which I can't remember what it's called. The something, hang on. The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafón, I loved. But yeah, this just annoyed me, and I ended up giving it 2 stars purely based on the first 2 chapters. They were so good. The rest was just such a letdown for me. Pool Boy by Michael Simmons, yeah, is one of the first books I picked up. So I read this one in March as well. It is oh gosh, I don't remember if it's YA or middle grade, but it's a contemporary, and it deals with the opposite to the rags to riches trope that I coined at the time, the riches to rags trope, where we follow a character who has had everything they've ever wanted because their family is so incredibly rich that they don't have to do anything because money will always be there, to a situation where money is no longer there. How will they cope with that struggle? He ends up being forced to get a job, stuff like that. I thought it would be really interesting, and it just wasn't. I don't remember a lot about it. This book did not have a lot of staying power with me, but I have to say that if I was given an opportunity to reread this, I probably would, just to try and remember why I didn't like it. Okay, so I'm looking at my actual review, which is a great cheat sheet for looking into why I gave it the rating I did. Yeah, so first of all, it's a character-driven story. I am definitely a plot-driven reader, so that definitely would not have worked for me. But also, it seems that despite the fact that this is set up as a riches to rags story, it actually opens up with our protagonist already in the rags situation. So we don't see that riches moment transcend, or descend, I should say, into the rags portion, which, yeah, definitely I can understand why that would have let me down, because I wanted to see the complete transition from one to another, and we didn't see it. We just began with him already poor, or lacking in funds. So, lacking in money. Alright, let's move on. Once by Morris Gleitzman. Okay, yeah, I spoke about this recently, so I won't spend a lot of time talking about it, but what annoyed me most about this book was that it felt rather dumbed down even for the age, despite the fact that it's a middle grade book. It just read for someone who may not be intelligent enough to understand certain things. And while I read this book as an adult, I'm not saying this in the headspace of an adult. I'm saying it even being mindful of children. This book just read as way too young for the middle grade age range. I honestly felt like it was dumbing things down for children where you don't need to do that. And I always find that annoys me in any middle grade. If children want to pick up a book, they don't want to be talked down to because they are children. I understand that there's a fine line, and I won't go into too much detail here because it's not the right forum for it. Maybe one day we can do another discussion on it. But I understand that there's certain lines we can't cross when it comes to middle grade books. I do get that. But there is a difference between not crossing a certain line and talking down to a child because they're a child. And I just don't agree with that personally. I think that, children may not be able to handle certain themes, but there's ways that you can go about writing a prose that doesn't make a child seem dumb or too childish. And this book certainly did come across that way, and it really did annoy me. Alright, The Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. I don't know why this book got 2 stars. I honestly am in shock that it got 2 stars because it probably deserved 1. Give me a moment, let me have a look and see why I gave it 2 and not 1 star. One moment. My Goodreads review doesn't really explain why I gave it 2 stars instead of 1. But there are times where I will actually clarify why I've decided to give a book a specific rating as opposed to giving it another one, especially if I'm giving it a half-star type rating. But in this particular case, the only thing I'm seeing is that I did some research and discovered that Kafka, Franz Kafka, who wrote the book, wrote it to reflect his depression. So maybe I thought, okay, I can understand now knowing that, why the book is the way that it is, so I'll give it another star. But honestly, upon reflection, just as a surface level review, the book bored me and it should have just received 1 star. I was too nice. This is a book I rated too high. Alright, we will do one more and then we will leave it there for this week. This video. So if you want this to be a series and see me do the rest of the 2 stars, let me know in the comments below. But here's the last one, and it is Alcatraz versus the Evil Librarians by Brandon Sanderson. Yes, you heard me right. My dear Mr. Brando Sando received 2 stars. Why? I'll tell you why. Speaking of dumbing things down, I am just not a fan of Brandon Sanderson. Wait, there's an asterisk coming up here. I am not a fan of Brandon Sanderson when he writes middle grades. No, I just don't like his middle grade stuff. It just isn't for me at all. One thing that annoyed me about this particular book, the first book in the Alcatraz series, is that the 4th wall is broken multiple times. It's broken once a chapter at least, and it annoyed me to the point that our main character in one of the chapters was saying something along the lines of, "Dear reader, I haven't addressed you yet, so it's about time that I do. How are you enjoying the book so far?" Like, really, no, the magic system I thought was okay, but it wasn't anything amazing. And I'm saying this as someone who loves Brandon Sanderson. I've read so many of his books and the majority of them have either received 4 or 5 stars. But his middle grade works do let me down because I consider Edge Dancer to be a middle grade book. It is a novella. Edge Dancer is a novella in the Stormlight archives. It comes up somewhere in the Stormlight archives. And I think it's given the age rating of YA, but honestly it reads more as a middle grade, and as a middle grade it makes more sense than being advertised as a YA. And so that book and this one just didn't work for me. His middle grade stuff just didn't work for me. But I need to wrap this up here because we've gone on for far too long already. So if you want to see more, please let me know and I'm happy to comply, but I don't want my videos to go on for too long. Alright, that is where we'll leave it for today, letting you all go with peace, blessings, and so much love. What are some 1 or 2 star books that you've read throughout the course of your reading life that you'd like to share below? Let us all know, and let us know why you gave it that rating. But in the meantime, please do be kind and spread your sparkling energy all throughout the world. And until next time, happy reading. Bye everyone.